What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the Like a Dragon Yakuza show. I have watched the final episodes. We did a review last week on episodes 1 through 3. Now it's time to do the entire season, and I gotta be honest, okay? It definitely improved in some areas, okay? I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that episodes 4, 5, 6 were as bad as 1, 2, 3. Now, as a whole, this is a terrible show. Don't get it confused. Don't get my words twisted. I hate this show. Let me just, in case you didn't know, I think this show is a disgrace. I think it's an abomination, and it's just less so because of 4, 5, 6. And I gave reasons. I'm not just saying this to say it. It's not clickbait, nothing like that. I'm a new age fan of the Yakuza series. I mean, I've gotten into these games, and I've played all but 3 of them, and I mean, like, spin-offs included as well. I've played maybe all except for 3 in the last 2 years, okay? So I'm fresh, but I'm in. I think they're amazing games. I think they're amazing characters and stories and all sorts of stuff in these games. And, when they pick to do the show now, right, they're flying high. They're being received really well, both sales and critically, like, in terms of scores and whatnot. We have the Hawaii one with Majima, right, coming out in February. So, like, we're flying high, and then you do this show. And as I said in my beginning, the first 3 episodes, I want to keep it with this. It's just not a Yakuza show. It fails at both parts. Let me just, re-say this, and we'll go on to some of the newer stuff. It fails at being a show because it's just not interesting enough. Now, I will say, fails at being a show. It did improve in that department. It also fails at being a Yakuza adaptation, okay? Now, in episodes 1 through 3, it is easily neither. It is a terrible adaptation, but it's also a bad show. It just doesn't do anything well. The acting overall was pretty okay. I guess that's the only thing. But when it comes to the writing and any kind of interest and things like that, there's nothing that actually makes it a unique and cool show, even if you weren't associating it with the games, okay? It fails at both of them. Now, I will say, the next 3 episodes, the final 3 episodes, they do pull it together where it is like a complete package. Like, if you watch this without any knowledge of the game, that's actually probably the way to watch it, because it might not make you mad. Now, I still don't think it's a good show, but I think, you're watching things happen, you say, okay, whatever. Things are happening. There is a coherent story, at least the second half. Now, I don't think it's a very good one. And then when you bring in the games, Jesus Christ. So, you get kind of the rise of Kiryu in episodes 4, 5, 6. You kind of see some of the background because, they jump, right? So it goes to 95 and then 2005 and back, forth. And there was really nothing interesting happening there in the first 3 episodes. These 3 episodes, yeah, you see Kiryu rising up, the fighting, underground fighting kind of scene. You see Nishiki and his sister, and you see things going on there. Yumi is also kind of just there. I really think there's just not enough you can do with Yumi as a character when it comes to also, like, having her be connected to these other characters. There's nothing really there. And I think Yumi's a good actress, the actress that plays her. I think she does her role completely fine. There's just not really a lot to her. Haruka completely disappears, so she's gone. Majima, I was going to say he, because Majima, I'm disgusted at, I mentioned in the 1 through 3, so they do kind of his arc with the eye patch. Now, it's done terribly. He shows up for maybe a minute and a half in the final episode. He's not in episode 4, not in 5. He's in the end of episode 6, and he's got one interaction with Kiryu where Kiryu is not even looking at him, but he looks at Kiryu. And I think he says something like, "We should do this again sometimes," or like, "I want almost like a rematch." And it's like, oh my dear God. So massively underused him and just absolutely terrible. And then when you do bring in the adaptation, what they tried to do, they made Nishiki the most over the top. I know the game can get over the top, but what they did to Nishiki is made him like, I don't know, like Thanos, not in terms of like smarts or like being a good character, but Thanos in terms of like how many lives he took away, when he did the snap. Nishiki wipes out so many freaking people. So they make this guy just the most irredeemable character possible, and then Kiryu still has to kind of redeem him. And it's like, it's just, they did it a certain way in the game, and also with Yumi, and you think of the top of the Millennium Tower. Like, I don't want to spoil Yakuza 1. They use parts of that, but very few, and then anything that's good about it, they don't use at all. So what you're left with is families fighting, like this massive battle scene, which is okay. And I will say, when Kiryu is doing the actual fighting, like the underground fighting stuff, it is pretty okay in terms of choreograph. I mentioned in episodes 1 through 3, I thought the martial arts part was bad. I didn't think anything about the first 3 episodes was good, except for the acting was fine, okay? But like the martial arts, something I look at as a martial artist, it was not available in the first 3 episodes. I will say when he is training and he's like throwing, punches or uppercuts or whatever it might be, even some kicks, he does do a couple of his moves from the game, so that's kind of cool. And, overall, when he's fighting competition in the underground ring, it's pretty okay. Okay, it is. You can watch it, and I could just not care, but you could watch it and be satisfied. Okay, but anything else, again, it's tough because as a game adaptation, I still think you could replace everybody with somebody else. Like, it doesn't need to be called Yakuza. That doesn't need to be Kiryu. Now, and I would say, watching this, they still aren't themselves. Majima is maybe the only one, and he's maybe in the show for like 5 minutes in all. And it's like, Kiryu, is he really Kiryu? At times, he has some of the values and traits, but not all of them, and not many of them, to be honest with you. Nishiki's a totally different character. It's not even him, okay? Yumi, like I said, she kind of is, but also she's being used more than actually she was used in the games. So it's like they're kind of inventing things for her, and those are the main 3. Those are the main 3 that we're stuck with, in this. And not that I don't want to be stuck with them. They should be good, but obviously they're not. I don't know. That's just how I feel. I think Episode 6 was just a cluster F. They try to go kind of big with these big over-the-top fights, and this kind of demon reveal of who is this mass killer. Totally not, what's the word? It didn't hit me. It didn't catch me off guard. I kind of knew it anyway, and also it just wasn't impactful. But like I said, in terms of Nishiki and what they did with him, and in the entire final episode is a lot of fighting. Kiryu just loses, and he fights and he gets destroyed for the most part. He keeps getting back up, which does remind me of Kiryu, right? Kiryu's a guy who gets injured 50 times and can still stand up and still fight somehow, and that's fine. So he does that, but he just constantly, he never really wins, right? So it's he's, I'm not talking the games, I'm talking about the show. So it's he's actually one of the weakest parts of the final episode. Everybody else is doing major things. He does major things, but he's always on the receiving end of them. So just as a whole, I don't even want to say disappointed. I just think it's bad. This is a bad adaptation. It's a terrible adaptation. In terms of an actual show, the second half I think is fine. The first half I also think is bad. So what does that leave you, right? Adaptation's terrible all the way through, and then as a show, it's bad first half, and then it's okay second half. So average those 3 things out, you have a pretty terrible show. I think terrible actually still wins that average. So I highly don't recommend this. They do end it where they can keep going. Don't like that, and I don't think they're going to. I really don't even know who watched this thing except for me. I really I didn't see anybody. I've seen a couple people take jabs at it on Twitter, but maybe 3-4 times. I've seen 3-4 posts. That's it. I really don't know how many people watch this thing, and they shouldn't. You shouldn't watch it. It's terrible. Why give it the time of day? So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.